Tosha.
Hi, Lilou.
How are you doing
Am I saying
today?
I'm good? I'm very good. Happy to talk to you.
Yes. I want to say to all viewers, sorry for the little bit blurry connection. This is probably one of those Skype technical difficulties sometimes that we have. But to me, the most important is that we spread these messages on the internet, and sometimes we have to overcome the quality of the image, but the message is the most important, and our heart will surely listen to this one because we're going to
Or,
speak about listening to our inner divine.
or people can just visualize me however they want me to look, and I can be like their fantasy.
Good, the goddess.
The goddess.
Fantastic. So you wrote your book is called Outrageous Openness, Letting the Divine Take the Lead.
Yes,
Are you, from my understanding, you're talking about an inner divine, not the outer divine as it is set in the religion.
that's true. Although I would say it's inner and outer, in a sense, not so much of the religious sense traditionally, but in the way of that there's this force, maybe you call it the Shakti or the chi that lives inside of us, but also that it's constantly trying to interact with us in the world all the time in a very specific, practical way. So the book is really like a guideline for how to have this relationship all the time with that force.
So this force, it's the force of love. Can we call it that way too?
Good. That's good. I like that.
So the force, so this force of love, this force, this divinity, is it going through us? Are we part of it, and we are it, and it's inside of us and outside and everywhere? How do you see it?
Yes, that's really how I see it. That it's what is encompassing everything, and in that sense, what I was writing about, it's not that uncommon. There's many people that quantum physics is even saying this, of course, that this love permeates everything. But I think the difference of what happened in this book is that um, there aren't a lot of specifics out there about how to really engage with that force in a very practical, day-to-day, minute-to-minute way. It tends to be more abstract, like, oh, yes, we're all love, open up to it. But when you get to things like, what do you do when you're standing in line at the bank for half an hour and you're frustrated? How do you invite that force in? Or how do you invite it in when you need a new place to live within 30 days? Or all these very practical ways that that relationship encompasses everything.
Because when really the shit hits the fan, that's when we really need to remember and to we. It seems like sometimes we lose it, we find it, we lose it, we find it, we lose it, and we can feel those moments. I'm sure, just I know many of us feel it, and then all of a sudden, ding, there's something that happens and it goes. How do you
Yes,
invite it back in, or how do you connect back to it?
yes. Well, I think that's exactly what the book's about. I'm a Capricorn, so I'm very practical. So for me, a lot of what was happening was that it's exactly as you describe. One thing when people are meditating, or one thing when people are on their yoga mat, but then eventually you roll up the yoga mat, and now you have to go be in whatever the challenge is. And one of the principles in the book, here, should I show the book? Because it has a really
Yeah,
pretty
it's
cover.
beautiful. Yes, please.
The cover is a
Higher, a
goddess.
little bit higher.
She's
Yes,
a goddess from Thailand, I think, originally, but
she's
she
winking.
got she's winking, which I think is what the universe is always doing to us. And so anyway, what was happening is that suddenly you're in that challenge, and what's the energy? What are the principles that you can use in that challenge to not lose that state that you might have in meditation or that you might have on the yoga mat? So the book covers things like that. There's a principle called divine order that is really where you're just aligning with whatever the highest outcome is at any given moment to allow that to come. And a lot of it is really about getting out of the way so that the mind isn't taking the lead, the larger energy is taking the lead.
Tell us more, because we can feel that.
Okay, good.
And how can we really invite it in? How can we dance with it?
Yeah.
How can we feel that, like, within an instant, get back into it?
Well, I'll give you an example, because there's a few different ways I approach it in the book. One of the easiest ways is this thing called a change me prayer. And what you do with a change me prayer is that you're literally in the moment. It's very different than affirmations. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with all that, but people will say things like, I am now peaceful. Well, when you're not peaceful, that doesn't necessarily do anything. The person just keeps saying, I am now peaceful, and the mind sort of says, not really. But a change me prayer, because the whole nature of the book is about the direct relationship with the divine. That's all it's about, is just like if you met somebody that you were madly in love with and you wanted to spend time with them all the time, it's exactly the same with the internal divine. So the change me prayer, let's say you're anxious. In the moment, you're just creating a prayer. It sounds so basic, but it's not what people think to do. That says, change me right now into somebody who is completely calm. Change me into somebody who feels your presence right now in this moment. And as simplistic as it sounds, in one way, it's not, because there's this immediate invitation to a larger energy come in and surrender to that energy and be transformed by it. And so I use those all day long. They're very powerful, and you can use them for anything. You come to a moment. I had to do it with Skype because we were talking. I hadn't used Skype before, and I was like, it was 7:45, and I suddenly realized you had to download an account to get Skype up. So it was like, okay, I have 6 minutes to figure this out. Change me into somebody who can figure Skype out. Because those things don't always come easily to me, and people can use them with absolutely anything. So it's inviting in the larger energy. And also, there's another principle in the book called using divine order. And divine order is where no matter what your problem is, there's always a solution that's already selected, that's much beyond what the mind can think of. So it's not like manifestation work. It's not like all that. This work I find very different than let me go visualize what I want to go make it happen, because that's so often an ego. And that to me is the great limitation of that kind of work. Mm-hmm. This, like, divine order says, God already has the solution. The divine has already picked the solution. Let's say you need a place to live within 30 days. And the mind is going, oh my God, I better visualize all the things I need, blah, 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 blah. Forget all that. Divine order would say the place is already picked. And as soon as you put yourself into that place of alignment where you say, the perfect place for me to live is already selected and I'll be guided to it in the right way at the right time, you can feel the spaciousness. Because a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of manifestation stuff that people do, even though I know it has its merit because it's created through our mind, but a lot of it comes through the ego grasping and saying, okay, I want this, now I'll keep hammering at it until it comes. Well, with divine order, you feel the space. It's like you're receiving as opposed to thinking of what you want to go create. You're saying, I'm in alignment with this force that already has the answers. And if you don't feel in alignment, you can ask to be changed to be in alignment. And then you're receiving whatever the highest outcome is. So those are the kind of principles that are in the book a lot. And over time, the more you use them, anyone uses them. I've even had real atheists use them, because you don't even have to believe in so-called God. You can just be talking to love, as you say, or to trees. But you're inviting in that force to take whatever the highest route is with any issue. And the more you use it, the deeper the connection to that force becomes.
Mm-hmm. This is awesome. So you've... It makes sense. Did you discover that as you were? Because from my understanding, you did a lot of readings. And yes, is it how you used to be able to read? You were always inviting and working with higher forces to receive messages and to be connected?
Well, I think yes and no. I mean, I think that I don't give readings so much, really hardly at all anymore. But back when I was doing them, yeah, I did like 30,000 readings over the years. And I think the information came mostly through people's astrology charts as I was working, and also through the cards. But more this way of approaching things, I think it probably happened for me because of some people may be familiar with Florence Scovel Shinn. She wrote a book called The Game of Life and How to Play It. Back in 1940s, she was way before the New Age Renaissance. And the book is amazing because it's very specific about divine order and how to align with these things. But also what was happening for me in all the readings was I was realizing that everybody had the same kind of questions. They didn't know. They didn't know how to trust. Mm-hmm. They didn't know how to let go, mm-hmm. and how to trust that the answers were already selected. That's why they were calling a reader. They were like, tell me when I'll be moving here. Tell me when I'll find my next love. Tell me this, tell me that. Whereas already those answers, once you know the principles of how to do this, you really don't need to turn to someone on the outside. You start to really be guided from the inside in very specific ways. So in a way, giving all those readings was a real preparation for saying, wow, this isn't what I want to do. I want to teach people how to know this inside themselves. It's beyond intuition. It's really specific tools for how to, it's like a breadcrumb trail that the universe gives once you invite it in and you say, here's the problem, show me where you want this to go, then the signs start to get shown in very specific ways if you're attuned to it.
Yeah, if you're attuned, if you stay in that quest and not go back into fear.
That's exactly it. And the book has a lot about that, about how to not go into fear, because you're right. It's the holding of that state. And even a lot of law of attraction work and manifestation work and all these things that people were doing often were very fear-based. It's like, I better keep doing this over and over because I'm scared I won't get what I want if I don't keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
That's not how it has to go. It's like, as soon as you're in that thing, that there is this force, this divine force, that so wants to help you in every conceivable way and already has all the routes picked. They're already selected. So on one level, that begins to take the fear away anyway. And then also the change me fears are really good with fear, because then you just begin to keep saying, change me into somebody who's not afraid, change me into somebody who trusts the process, change me into somebody who lets you take the lead. All kinds of miracles have room to begin, because I think what you're saying is so true. The fear itself is often what blocks the synchronicity from being able to happen. But you don't have to rely on yourself to get rid of the fear. That's a great thing. The ego will never want to get rid of it. It thrives on it. But that's why there's help beyond the ego, right?
Yeah, but when you ask that, you kind of ask still on the outside, or how do you then? Because most people are used to ask on the outside, so you're calling in the divine force. But how do you feel that it's you also, and you're part of it? Is that part of the, not the trick, but the thing that you have to do to make it work too?
Well, I would say it's not really a trick. It's really what is, that you are that divine. And the book is really good for, like, I've given the book to cynics who really just say, this is so crazy. I don't think of myself as divine. And they write me later and they're like, I don't know, you're convincing me. Because if you think of even a tree, there's miracles going on in that tree that are making the leaves know when to fall off, right? There's some miracle going on that lets a bird know when to leave egg and go and fly. There's something inside of us that's divine. And so you really start to get that attunement that in a way, it's very unfortunate, I think, inside of a culture that makes us think the answers are always on the outside, or that makes us think that we have to keep grasping for something. It's really the opposite, that the answer is coming from within, but in a very practical way. And so a lot of the tools in the book are how to be in all these different situations, knowing that you are the divine, and knowing that you in that moment will be guided to exactly the right actions to take next.
Mm-hmm. And it's like this, when you ask, please transform me in the person that, da da da, you really, I can feel that you become that. It's like this force kind of brings that to you. Then you start to embodying it. What do you feel, what happens there in that moment?
That's such a good question. I mean, I would say you always are that force. All that you're doing is stepping into a level of consciousness where you come out of amnesia and you remember. You know, it's not to me like some poltergeist is coming from the sky and taking over. It's like you are that. Like you, Lilou, are that divine. And just like any of us on a bad day, I do this too. All of a sudden, I'll stop myself in the middle of the day where I have a lot of anxiety and I'll think, oh my God, I'm behaving as if I don't know who I am. And then you go back and remember. And so it's really just the practice in a way. I think, I'm really athletic, so it's not that different than going in the gym and developing a new muscle. You just start to practice remembering that at any moment you have that connection to the divine, you're a spark of that energy. And also, primarily, that there's a reason the title is Letting the Divine Take the Lead, that energy will always guide the way if you allow it, but it has to have the invitation. If the fear and the anxiety is ruling, it doesn't really have room to lead. So there's a lot of tools for how to release that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because most of the time when there is a fear or a challenge, something, we feel alone and totally separated. We don't even breathe. We shut ourselves up completely, like if we were the only one and nobody could help or understand. But we forget to tap in the divine or letting it in, even in a deeper way as you describe.
Yeah, and I think that what's so interesting with it is that, going back to the metaphor of meeting a person that you might be really drawn to, if you met somebody and you said, wow, this person's amazing, I want to know everything about them, all of this time and energy, no matter how busy you were, right, all this time and energy would get put into, how can I be around this person? So it's very similar to the divine. I think in the beginning, people see it like, well, I said a prayer or two and I don't feel that connected. It's not really like that. It's an energy that over time, just like an outside individual, you keep inviting it in. You invite it in even for very mundane things, like, what am I going to do later today? Okay, you show me. Okay, the perfect route for the rest of the day is picked. You show me. And so you start to get in the habit of inviting in this energy, which is really just a higher aspect of yourself. And then all of a sudden, the partnership starts to take off on its own. There's some line where they say if you move one step towards the divine, it moves 3 steps towards you. And I think it's like that. It's not like you have to do all the work. All you kind of have to do is unlock the door. And I teach classes in this a lot now. And one of the things that's interesting is that a number of the people in them, they call themselves like recovering religious people, because they have a whole background where they got so turned off, understandably, to a lot of traditional religion because it felt so filled with rules and regulations and all the they had to do that they felt they were stifled by, and yet they could feel that they wanted a connection to something much deeper. So I throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? This is a lot of what this work is, where you realize, well, you can reclaim this force. It's always been you. And without a lot of rules and regulations, actually have it like, it's really like a love affair with the internal divine. And if you were having a love affair with somebody, you really wouldn't need a lot of rules for how to do it. You know, you mostly just need the attention and the love and practice. So,
yeah, I love the relaxing into this divine and letting it in and being really the vessels. A lot of teachings say that we are vessels, really. I mean, we have a soul, we're the divine, and we can just let in those forces, but we don't really. We're still. It's good. You take it at another level. I like that.
Well, and anybody can do it. It's the thing. Because so much of the training, if you think about it over and over, most of the training out there, even with, sometimes people will say to me who are doing, say, manifestation work, is they'll say, well, if you don't know what you want to create, you'll never create it, right? That's a common line people say. And I always say back, I don't care what I want to create. What I care about is what the divine wants to create through me. That's so much more interesting, because what you can create through your own ego, or what you can visualize through your own ego, is so limited compared to what this completely unlimited energy could create. So why focus just on what the ego might want? Mm-hmm. So you really actually don't even need to know what you need or what you want or what the next step is. I think sometimes people get very stuck on that. They'll say, well, I have to decide all these things I want next. I'm like, who cares? You know, you really get that if you read the book, if you read Outrageous Openness. It's like this quality of inviting the divine in to take the lead. It is you, but it's the highest aspect of yourself, right? So it knows what you need next, and whether what you need next is a big turning point in relationship or in your career, or you need to move to a new town. It knows how to guide you to that once all the agendas are dropped away, you know, where you stop telling it, I need this and I need that. Then you actually start to really be guided. It's very practical.
Yeah, we need to get practical. Yeah, and fun. I like I can tell that it's a fun book with a wink in front. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I had this last little question regarding how is this linked to astrology? Do you as much now practice it or look at it, or did it's really just a tool for you that allow you to be where you are now, where you fully trust, and just whatever events happen, you invite the divine and you flow with it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know, I'm on Facebook almost every day, because people can find me on Facebook. It's a conversation on Facebook that I have almost every day with people, because I do post some astrology for the people there, but it's from a very different place than most people write about astrology, because it's just what you say. It's like, I believe in paradox, so I think both things are true. The stars are very useful to know about. I don't do astrology readings anymore, but I still write about it some. And yet, when you know how to use divine order and you know how to use these principles, you don't fear the stars anymore. You don't fear the transits. You don't,
the superstition isn't there anymore.
You know that there's a force that's really protecting you, that will guide you no matter what the transit is. You don't have to be coming from that place of, oh, Saturn might be hitting my Venus, I'm so scared about this or that, because you trust that. I mean, that's what divine order would say at any given moment. The highest expression of what needs to happen for you is going to happen if you align with that. And so the stars are just extra information to have, that's very useful to have, but you integrate it with the knowledge that the divine lead. And so it's actually a beautiful blend. And people are curious, they can find me on Facebook, because every day there's a whole community of people. That's really what I'm writing about. And it's powerful to connect the two.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Tosha. I hope people could see that the image was a little bit blurry, and I apologize. I might do a little montage, photo montage, we'll see, or we'll have to meet in person. Where are you located in the world?
I'd love that. I'm near Oakland. I'm near San Francisco.
Nice.
And you ever come out here?
I was there last year on the Juicy Tour US. I've spent a lot of times. There's a lot of very wise people in that area.
Yeah, you know, when I went to India, they said, "Why are you in India? You should just stay home in the Bay Area. That's where all the yogis are."
Yeah, it's a very empowering, beautiful, beautiful place. I really enjoyed it. I was born in Santa Barbara. I'm French, but I was born in California, so I have my heart just beats very fast for California as well.
Good. Well, I do hope we meet. That would be great.
Well, that would be lovely. Thank you so much for this conversation. I look forward to sharing it with everybody, and everybody watching, please share these. We send you much, much love wherever you are.